Have you ever fought so hard in life that it felt like you were wrestling with God Himself? Have you ever made mistakes, carried regret, feared your past, and wondered if God could still use you? Then the story of Jacob is for you. Jacob's life was not a smooth journey of faith. It was a life filled with struggle, deception, fear, heartbreak, and powerful transformation. He was a man who ran from his past, wrestled with his future, and one night literally wrestled with God. Yet from that struggle came a new name, a new identity, and a divine purpose that would change history forever. This is the incredible story of Jacob, the man who wrestled with God. Jacob's story begins before he was even born. His father was Isaac, the promised son of Abraham, and his mother was Rebekah. For many years, Isaac and Rebekah had no children. They prayed and trusted God, and finally, the Lord answered them. Rebekah became pregnant with twins, but this pregnancy was unlike any other. The babies struggled so much inside her that she cried out to God, asking why this was happening. And the Lord answered her in Genesis 25, verse 23. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." This was surprising because, by tradition, the older son always received the greater blessing. But God had already chosen the younger one. When the twins were born, the first baby came out red and hairy, and they named him Esau. The second baby came out holding Esau's heel, and they named him Jacob, which means heel grabber or supplanter, someone who takes another person's place. Even from birth, Jacob's life was marked by struggle. As the boys grew, they became very different. Esau became a strong hunter, a man of the open fields. Isaac loved Esau because he brought him wild game. Jacob, however, was quiet and stayed among the tents. Rebekah loved Jacob more. One day, Esau returned home exhausted and starving from hunting. Jacob was cooking stew. Esau said, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew." But Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." The birthright was the special inheritance of the firstborn son. It included family leadership, double inheritance, and spiritual blessing. Esau, thinking only of his hunger, said, "I'm about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" So he sold it to Jacob for bread and lentil stew. This moment revealed both brothers' hearts. Esau treated spiritual blessings carelessly, while Jacob deeply desired what belonged to the firstborn. But Jacob did not wait for God's timing. Later, when Isaac had grown old and nearly blind, he prepared to give his final blessing to Esau. He asked Esau to hunt and prepare his favorite meal. But Rebekah overheard the conversation. She quickly made a plan for Jacob to receive the blessing instead. She prepared the food herself, dressed Jacob in Esau's clothes and covered his hands and neck with goat skins, because Esau was hairy, while Jacob had smooth skin. Jacob entered his father's tent, pretending to be Esau. Isaac asked, "Who are you, my son?" Jacob answered, "I am Esau, your firstborn." That lie changed everything. Though suspicious, Isaac believed him and gave Jacob the blessing meant for Esau. "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you." Soon after, Esau returned and discovered the truth. His cry of pain shook the house. He wept bitterly and begged his father for another blessing, but it was too late. Esau was filled with anger and planned to kill Jacob after Isaac died. When Rebekah heard this, she told Jacob to flee immediately to her brother Laban in Haran. So Jacob left home alone, afraid, guilty, and uncertain of his future. He had gained the blessing, but lost his peace. As he traveled, night came, and Jacob stopped to rest in a lonely place. He placed a stone under his head and fell asleep. That night, he had a dream that would change his life forever. He saw a stairway reaching from earth to heaven, with angels going up and down on it. Above the stairway stood the Lord, and God said in Genesis 28 verses 13 to 15, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go." Jacob awoke in fear and wonder. He said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He named that place Bethel, which means house of God. For the first time, Jacob had a personal encounter with the God of his fathers. He continued his journey and arrived in Haran, where he met Rachel, the daughter of Laban. The moment he saw her, he fell in love. He agreed to work 7 years for Laban in order to marry her. And the Bible says those 7 years seemed like only a few days because of his love for her. But on the wedding night, Laban deceived Jacob. Instead of Rachel, he gave him Leah, the older sister. The deceiver had now been deceived. Jacob was shocked and angry. When he confronted Laban, Laban explained that in their culture, the older daughter must marry first. So Jacob agreed to work another 7 years for Rachel. Over time, Jacob married Leah and Rachel, and through them and their servants Bilhah and Zilpah, he became the father of 12 sons. These sons would later become the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob also became very wealthy with flocks, servants, and livestock. But tension grew between him and Laban. After 20 years, God told Jacob it was time to return home, but one fear still haunted him: Esau. Jacob remembered the brother he had betrayed. Now he heard that Esau was coming to meet him with 400 men. Jacob was terrified. He imagined revenge. He feared death. He divided his family and possessions into groups, hoping that if one group was attacked, the others might survive. He also sent gifts ahead: goats, camels, cattle, and donkeys, to soften Esau's heart. That night, before meeting Esau, Jacob found himself completely alone. And there, in the darkness, one of the most mysterious and powerful moments in the Bible took place. Genesis 32 tells us that a man wrestled with Jacob until daybreak. This was no ordinary man. This was a divine encounter. Jacob was wrestling with God. All night long they struggled. Jacob refused to let go. When the man saw that he could not overpower Jacob, he touched Jacob's hip, and instantly Jacob's hip was put out of joint. Even in pain, Jacob kept holding on. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied with words that still inspire believers today, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" He answered, "Jacob." Then came the life-changing words, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob means deceiver. Israel means one who struggles with God. This was more than a new name. It was a new identity. Jacob had spent his life grabbing, striving, manipulating, and running. But now, after wrestling with God, he was changed. He named that place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." He walked away limping, but blessed. Sometimes God changes us through struggle. Sometimes the blessing comes with a limp. The next morning, Jacob faced Esau. He bowed to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But instead of anger, Esau ran to meet him. He embraced Jacob, threw his arms around his neck, and kissed him. And they both wept. The reunion Jacob feared most became a moment of forgiveness. God had gone before him. Peace replaced fear. Grace replaced revenge. Jacob settled in the land, but life still brought pain. One of his deepest wounds came through his beloved son Joseph. Joseph was Jacob's favorite because he was the first son of Rachel, the wife he loved most. Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful robe, and his brothers became jealous. In their hatred, they sold Joseph into slavery and lied to Jacob, making him believe Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. Jacob mourned deeply for years. He believed he would never see Joseph again. But God was still writing the story. Joseph had risen from slavery to become a powerful ruler in Egypt. During a severe famine, Jacob's sons traveled there to buy food, not knowing Joseph was alive. At last, Joseph revealed himself. When Jacob heard the news, he could hardly believe it. Genesis 45 verse 26 says, "Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. But when he saw the wagons Joseph had sent, his spirit came alive. He said, 'I'm convinced. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die.' And he did. After years of sorrow, Jacob embraced Joseph again. What he thought was lost forever was restored by God. Before Jacob died, he blessed his sons and worshiped the Lord. Hebrews 11 verse 21 says, "By faith Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff." What a powerful ending. The man who once relied on tricks now leaned on faith. The man who once ran in fear now stood in peace. The man who once fought for blessings had learned to trust the God who gives them. Jacob died in Egypt at the age of 147. But his story did not end there. His descendants became the nation of Israel, God's chosen people. His new name became the name of a nation. Jacob's life teaches us something powerful. God uses imperfect people. Jacob was flawed. He lied. He deceived. He feared. He failed. But God never gave up on him. God chose him. God corrected him. God blessed him. And most importantly, God transformed him. Maybe you feel like Jacob today. Maybe you are carrying regret. Maybe you are wrestling with your past. Maybe fear follows you everywhere. Maybe you are waiting for God to change your story. Remember this: your mistakes do not cancel God's purpose. Your weakness does not stop His promise. Sometimes you must wrestle before you receive the blessing. Sometimes your greatest transformation happens in your darkest night. Jacob entered that night as Jacob. He walked away as Israel. And that is the incredible story of the man who wrestled with God. Subscribe to our channel for more video like this. Don't forget to like and share. Shalom.